Warning! This video is intended for educational and MS documentary purposes. The host, Jenny, of the podcast show, The Demon Within, is not a doctor or any type of professional medical advisor.
I am a warrior.
You wake up. The sun is shining through your window. It looks like a beautiful morning. You open your eyes to greet it. But there's one problem. It's like a big, thick white cloud is directly over your left eye. You rub your eyes hard. You blink. But the fog doesn't clear. Panic starts to rise in your chest. You sit up to get out of bed. You swing your legs over the side. You tell your brain to stand up. But you end up on the floor. You look down at your legs. They look like yours, but you can barely feel your feet. Your ankles are so stiff. They feel like concrete has been poured on it. You reach for the nightstand, clawing your way up. You try to stand one more time. Pain shoots up your shin. It feels like you're walking on shattered glass. Every step is agony. Every step is a betrayal. You scream for help, but your voice feels trapped in your own throat. You are a prisoner in your own skin. Now, this sounds like the opening scene to a horror movie, right? But for me, this isn't Hollywood. It's just Tuesday morning. This is what it feels like to have MS. Welcome to The Demon Within. I'm your host, Jenny. For over 20 years, I have lived with this invisible roommate, a squatter in my own body. A demon that decides when I walk, when I see, when I talk, and when I hurt. This is a podcast about living with multiple sclerosis. I'm not here to speak about defeat from this invisible illness. I'm here to gain understanding from this demon that I live with, and to help all of you gain understanding as well. Not just the ones battling with a chronic illness, but for family members as well. I'm still learning, and as more time passes and I develop new or worsening symptoms, I'm learning to manage and cope to live a somewhat normal life. And hopefully my journey and my story can at least help someone out there right now who is suffering from this horrible demon. I call it a demon because it's evil and it's ruthless. It doesn't care who you are, who your loved ones are. It doesn't care if you're a mother, father, sister, brother, or any other type of title. This disease is only out for one thing, and that is to destroy you and everyone around you. That's why I've created this podcast. This disease will not be the end of me or all of you listening out there. We are warriors, and we will rise together. So, let's get the scary part out of the way. What exactly is this demon? Doctors call it multiple sclerosis. But that sounds too simple, too polite. Here is the easiest way to understand it. I want you to look at your phone charger. Matter of fact, I have my phone charger right here. I am charging my phone as we speak. Here we go. See? This is a phone charger. My wire, though, is not broken, as I'm going to be discussing. I wish I had a good example of a broken wire. For those of you who are only listening, I am showing my phone wire. For those of you who are watching me on YouTube, you know how it is to have those wires that kind of fray on the wiring itself, and they start looking crazy and not working, and you kind of got to maneuver it to get it to work. Um, so let me get into why this is an important example of what MS is. This is the easiest way to understand it. Imagine that phone wire that I just showed you. Inside the plastic coating is a copper wire that carries electricity, information from the wall to the device. Your nerves are that copper wire. They carry messages from your brain to your feet, your hands, and your eyes. Now, imagine that rubber coating on the outside of the wire. So, in your body, that coating is called myelin. It protects the nerve and makes sure the messages travel fast and clear. With MS, your own immune system, the thing that's supposed to protect you, turns into a traitor. It mistakes that protective coating for a virus, and it attacks it. It eats it away. If any of you listening out there have ever played Pac-Man, my generation, Pac-Man was one of my favorite games. You would understand this concept of eating away. So, it chews on the phone wire. When the wire is exposed, the signals short out. Sometimes the messages get through very slowly, and sometimes it gets garbled. That's when you feel the tingling or the burning. Usually I get that in my hands and my feet, lately in my face. And sometimes the wire is cut completely. This is the demon. It is your own body systematically unplugging you, one wire at a time.
Hold that thought, everyone. We're briefly evicting the demon within for a quick word from the folks who keep our lights on and our infusion chairs comfortable. Stay tuned. We'll be back to wrestling the beast in just a moment. The demon within will return after these messages, provided we can remember where we left the microphone.
Samantha Stacy started the Cute Cane Shop after being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. As a young cane user, she couldn't find anything that matched her style and personality. Samantha loves creating custom designs for the young and young at heart. Her amazing canes were featured in Cope magazine. Visit her shop on Etsy at cutecaneshopetsy.com.
Hey, I'm Sam, the owner of Cute Cane Shop, and this is just a reminder that your cane or mobility aid does not ruin your outfit.
I wasn't always the host of this so-called demon. For a long time, I was just Jenny. Or for my kids, Mom. And it started a little over 20 years ago. I was in what should have been the happiest chapter of my life. I had just given birth. I was a new mom. I was exhausted, sure, but I was in love with this new life I had created. But the body does strange things after pregnancy. The hormones crash, the stress rises, and apparently that was the invitation the demon was waiting for. I remember the morning it happened perfectly. I woke up to a crying baby. I went to lift my head off the pillow, and the world just kind of tilted. But it wasn't just dizziness. I covered my left eye. I could see the crib, and I could see the sunlight. Then I covered my right eye. It was like a white cloud. I guess that's the best explanation I can give you. It wasn't just blurry vision. It was absolute fog covering my sight over my left eye. I had gone blind in that eye. And it was basically overnight. Just like that. I went to multiple doctors and they all thought I was crazy. They told me I was going through postpartum. You know, that's funny because I read a lot of pregnancy and parenting books prior to giving birth, and never did I read that postpartum causes blindness. I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but hey, I've never read that before, never heard of it. So, over the next 3 years, I continued to experience really weird symptoms. Sudden weakness throughout my body or sudden loss of balance. numbness in my hands and feet, or the sensation like I am walking on glass. It is so painful. And I felt dizzy all the time. I couldn't understand what was happening to my body. And every time I tried to explain it to a doctor, they would try to send me to a psychiatrist. Okay. They thought I was cuckoo. And it was just frustrating because there was something wrong with me. And doctors were saying, no, you're crazy. You know? It seemed like no one was listening to how I was feeling, my symptoms, what I was going through. I felt alone. I felt angry, very, very angry. And eventually, the weird symptoms kind of subsided on their own. So let's fast forward 3 years later. That's when I had started college. I was working part-time as a certified dog groomer. And one day, I had a freak accident happen to me. I was blow drying a dog, and to make a very long story short, I got electrocuted. I did. And that was not a great time. It was very scary, very painful. And shortly after that, I started to experience all those weird symptoms that I was experiencing before. However, it was a lot worse this time, like a whole lot. I had weird pains all over my body. My hand wasn't moving when I needed it to move. I was having major issues with my right hand more than my left, and I am right-handed. So it made it really hard to function, especially working and as a mom and being in college. It was really hard. I had to leave school for a whole year. I took a break to figure out what was going on with me, with my body, with my symptoms. Eventually, a doctor decided to do a spinal tap on me. For those of you who do not know what a spinal tap is, let me try to explain the best way that I possibly can. Imagine your brain and spinal cord are delicate, precious instruments. To keep them safe, your body floats them in a bath of clear, nutrient-rich water. This water is called cerebrospinal fluid, also known as CSF, which is a lot easier to say than cerebrospinal fluid. That is a tongue twister. A spinal tap, also called a lumbar puncture, is simply the act of dipping a cup into that bath water to get a sample. Now, I know I'm making it sound as pleasant as possible, but the reality is that needle, you guys, the needle. It goes into your spine for the spinal tap, and it is as long, and I'm not trying to scare you guys out there, but this is a reality. That needle is as long as your smartphone or an ink pen. So take a moment, pause, grab your smartphone, and look at it. Or a pen, and look at how long that is. That goes in your spine. Most people say that the procedure is very painful. However, that's what worried the doctor so much when it was done to me, because I didn't feel anything. I actually fell asleep on the table while they were doing that procedure. And no, they do not give you any type of anesthesia or pain medicine to reduce the pain. So you're awake for the whole thing. So let me explain the procedure a little better that they do for the spinal tap. Basically, a doctor inserts a hollow needle into the lower part of your back between the vertebrae, which are the bones, and they collect the fluid. At the time, I didn't know I had multiple sclerosis, and neither did the doctors that were performing this. So that's why an MRI wasn't ordered first. Usually, doctors use MRI scans to look for damage, or we call them lesions in the MS community, on your brain. But sometimes the MRI isn't enough to be 100% sure. So they need to look for chemical evidence for the disease. Think back to when I was talking about the demon attacking the phone wires, which are the nerves. It's like a crime scene in your own body when the immune system attacks your nerves. It's a war zone. The battle leaves you behind debris and footprints. Now for the evidence. This debris flows into your spinal fluid. Specifically, the doctors are looking for a type of protein called antibodies. In a healthy person, the fluid is clear of these specific proteins. In a person like myself with MS, these proteins clump together and show up on the test as stripes, which doctors call oligoclonobans. I hope I did not butcher that. I'm trying my best, you guys. There's a lot of medical terminology that's just really hard to 1, comprehend, and 2, explain, and 3, say. The bottom line is that the doctors find these bands in your spinal fluid, but not in your blood. It proves that your immune system is launching an attack specifically inside your central nervous system. That is a smoking gun for diagnosing multiple sclerosis. I finally got a follow-up appointment with an amazing neurologist at the time. I hadn't been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis yet, so I had no idea what the neurologist was going to say or what he was looking for. I didn't even know what multiple sclerosis was. That was a disease I had never heard of before. The neurologist that I saw that day, he ordered an MRI. After my MRI, I went back to the neurologist to get the result. Those results were life-changing. My neurologist went over my spinal tap result, and then he showed me the results of the MRI. I was really confused when I looked at that MRI. It looked like someone had thrown whiteout on the MRI all over my brain. That's how it looked. And the doctor told me I had lesions on my brain, which are basically like scars made by the disease multiple sclerosis. That was the day that Jenny died and the MS patient was born. But here's the thing about demons. If you learn their name, you take some of their power away. I regained my sight eventually, but I never regained the old me. Sorry. I had to build a new version of myself, a version that was tougher, but that didn't come easily. It took many years to find that version of me. And in a lot of ways, because MS is such a strange disease and is still evolving and getting worse, I'm still finding that person. Here's what they don't tell you about MS. No one tells you how multiple sclerosis doesn't just affect you physically, it affects you mentally and emotionally. Being told I had multiple sclerosis was like being told I had a parasitic entity that was chewing on my wiring. But the real horror didn't happen with the physical symptoms of MS. The real horror is the mental invasion that it caused. Your body is under siege, and your mind is the first casualty. When you lose your health, you are grieving a death. The death of the person that you used to be. And that grief doesn't come neatly. It comes in waves of pure terror. I've met the MS demon in 5 different forms. Each one is a desperate attempt to survive the truth. These are the 5 faces of the MS demon that I know a lot of you have experienced and are pretty much still experiencing. The first phase is the most deceptive. It whispers sweet lies right into your ear. The first phase is denial. You get the diagnosis, right? You see the MRI showing those scary white patches, the lesions on your brain. You hear the word from your doctor, incurable. But the demon of denial smiles and says, it's a mistake. They got the wrong chart. I feel fine right now. I'll just eat better. I'll go gluten-free. I'll get more sleep. I'll take more vitamins. Or I'm going to run a marathon next year. Denial is a beautiful warm blanket. You pull it over your head and hide from the storm. But here's the scary part. Denial prevents survival. If you don't accept the demon is there, you won't be prepared for the next attack. You won't take the medicine you need. You won't slow down. You continue pouring from an empty cup until you crash. And the MS demon, well, it loves a good crash. I know for me, that denial stage was brutal. When I was personally diagnosed, I didn't know what multiple sclerosis was. And when I started researching it, I thought, this isn't me. I'm not crippled or I feel fine. And there were so many things that I justified at that moment that I was not relapsing. I thought to myself, I got to see another doctor. He definitely got it wrong. But once the comfort of denial burns away, you meet the second face, the second demon of MS, and that is anger. The demon has horns, fire in its eyes, and the voice that screams, "Why me?" I think in a lot of ways I'm still angry. Why me? Why you out there? If you have this chronic illness, why us? What did I do to deserve this, right? It's the doctor's fault for not catching it sooner. It's my family's fault for stressing me out. It's God's fault. Anger is powerful. It's an addictive energy. It feels productive. You're not helpless. You're mad. You turn that fire on the world, and sometimes you turn it to the people you love. I have done so. I'm not proud of that. I was actually, for a time period in my life, mad at my husband for being healthy and angry at him for the things he did have wrong, the minor health issues he did have wrong, because they were fixable. He could fix high cholesterol. He could fix high blood pressure. He could fix those things with exercise and eating better. And eventually he did. But at the time, I was so angry because I couldn't fix what was wrong with me. See, the thing with anger, if it's not channeled, it's a slow poison. It doesn't hurt the MS demon. It destroys you and pushes away all your allies. The secret here is to turn the fire outward, not inward. Be angry at the disease. Be angry at the injustice. Let that anger fuel your fight, not your isolation. Me today, all these years later, I'm angry. But I'm not angry at my spouse. I'm not angry at God. I'm not angry at the doctor. I am so angry at this disease. I hate this disease. I hate it. All of me hates this disease. This disease has been the worst part of my life. It destroys you as a person. It destroys your family because they're hurting. You're not the only one that's hurting. They're hurting. And then you start to feel guilty about that. I am so angry at the disease. I am not angry at anyone or anything but this disease. So I want to talk about the next face that appears. It doesn't rage. It tries to negotiate. I wonder how many of you can relate to this next phase of MS, the bargaining one. This demon looks like a desperate deal maker. It pleads, if I promise to never complain again, if I dedicate my life to charity, if I just take one more experimental supplement, will you please take this MS away? Can I at least trade this horrible pain for just being tired? Just let me keep my sight, and you can take my memory. You're trying to regain control by making a contract basically with the universe, or a dark force, or whatever you think, or whoever you think is in charge. It is a hope that if you're good enough or suffer enough, the disease will be appeased. I went through this, And I can personally tell you, bargaining is a dangerous distraction. It makes you feel guilty when a symptom does flare up and you fail to keep the promise. It keeps you running on a treadmill of what if instead of the reality, which is what is. The MS demon loves to make you bargain because it makes you feel like the next relapse is your fault. When all deals fail, when the anger is exhausted, and the denial is shattered, you fall into the fourth pit, depression. This face is cold. It is heavy. It looks exactly like you, but it's empty. This is where the true weight of loss hits. You're grieving your mobility. You're grieving the career you might have lost. You're grieving the future you planned with loved ones. You're sad and you're exhausted. For many with MS, this isn't just emotional. The inflammation and damage in your brain can cause clinical depression. It is physical sadness. My personal journey with depression has been a real hard one. I want to say, out of all the things I've experienced with multiple sclerosis, depression is the scariest one. I still go through depression. I'm healthier about it now that I'm older in my life. I've had years living with this horrible illness, and I have a husband and children who are in my corner. But there are days where I'm still really sad about the way my life would have been had I not had this disease. I was a nurse when I was diagnosed. Well, I was in college to become a nurse, and then the disease got worse when I finally got my career. And I couldn't work as a nurse because you're around sickness, and with a weak immune system, because my body was already attacking itself, I couldn't be exposed to any germ. I got better eventually after leaving my nursing position, and I went to become a teacher. I went back to school. I became a teacher, and let me just say, I really I really enjoyed and loved my students. I loved being a teacher. I love kids. I would have had 6 if the good Lord allowed me to. I only have 3. I loved, absolutely loved my job. It was amazing, and I had plans to further my career, my education, and multiple sclerosis took that away from me. It did. And, I love my life now, don't get me wrong. I have no regret with, you know, the path that has basically been chosen for me because I didn't choose this path completely. MS kind of steered me where I am right now, but I love being a mother. I'm blessed with 3 beautiful kids, a wonderful husband, and although MS steered my career path into a different direction, I'm okay with that. Let's talk more about depression because that's the darkest place for anyone living with multiple sclerosis. That demon feeds on your despair. It whispers, "You're a burden. It's hopeless. There's no point in trying." This is the point where you should reach out. Reach out to friends, to family, reach out to your therapist. You'll feel like you're alone going through this. But in reality, you're not. You're really not. Find your warrior family. Find your doctor. Because while MS is incurable, depression is treatable. As I've told you guys, I have went through depression very severely when I was finally understanding what multiple sclerosis was after being diagnosed. After I got past the denial stage, the angry stage, I went very strongly into depression. Depression is one of the hardest things to go through with MS, and it's not talked about as much as it should be. And finally, let's talk about the fifth face of MS. It's not happy. It's not ecstatic. It's a calm face. And this face is acceptance. Acceptance, it doesn't mean that it's surrender. It's not saying the demon won. Acceptance is simply saying, I see you. I know your name. I know your tactics. And I'm choosing to live anyway. This is where you stop fighting the diagnosis and start fighting that disease. You stop asking why you have MS and you start asking how you can live best with MS. You take your medicine, you listen to your body's limits, you use the cane or the wheelchair because it allows you to get to the grocery store, not because it proves you're sick. The MS demon is ruthless, but the moment you accept its presence, you stop wasting energy on denial and rage and you start focusing that energy on resilience. That is where our power truly lies. We will never be the before version of ourselves, but we can be a tougher, wiser, and more compassionate after version. Over the last 20 plus years, I have been paralyzed, I have been blind, I have been tired beyond words. I have lost the ability to think clearly or speak correctly. There we go, right there, correctly. Those of you watching on YouTube, you will notice a lot of edits on this video because I do have trouble speaking currently right now. That has been my new norm. And it's really hard to do podcasts, but I know all of you out there completely understand my struggles. So I'm still here. I'm still here after living more than 20 years with multiple sclerosis. And on this podcast, we're going to truly talk about the ugly stuff. The bladder issues, the brain fog, the depression, and the rage. We're going to talk about the MS hug. That's a hug, which I know sounds cute, okay? But it feels like a python crushing your ribs. Just picture that real quick, a python crushing your ribs. It hurts. But we're also going to talk about the resilience. We're going to talk about how to keep walking when the floor feels like glass. You remember the game, The Floor is Lava? I used to play it with my students when I was a teacher. Well, if you have MS, okay, the floor is glass. Shards of glass, that is, because it feels like you're walking on broken glass. It is very painful. My name is Jenny. The demon is within me, but it does not own me. Join me next week as we discuss invisible symptoms, how to explain to your family you look fine, but you feel like you're dying. Subscribe now. Let's keep fighting these things together. Let's go, Warriors.
This woman is blessed. No matter what obstacle she faces, she finds a way to make it through. She's a survivor and a champion, and there's nothing that can be said or done that can ever take that away from her.
This woman is blessed, believe it, she's a champion. Living without stress, believe it, she's a champion. This woman is blessed, believe it, she's a champion. Living